As I said during my introduction, I proposed this toast back in 1999 at our 174th anniversary dinner when Logan was in the chair. And I thought it would be good for me to cover this again this evening, as it allowed me to mirror my journey from being a new member through to being chairman. So, gentlemen, I beg your indulgence. So here goes. Let's see if I can remember this. And I do have some notes just in case. So bear with me. Mr. Croupier, gentlemen, having listened to a great variety of different approaches to the toast to the songwriters over the years, I can honestly say it is very difficult to find a new way to start. To get some indication as to how Burns developed his talent as a songwriter, I consulted a biographical dictionary of eminent Scotsmen edited by the Reverend Thomas Thomson in 1868, which abounded with titillating snippets of information. And at the end of his formal schooling, the Reverend Thomson assures us that the first book that Burns read was The Life of Hannibal, which must have been, with all those elephants, a heavy book indeed. The Reverend Thomson also tells us that Burns was mostly influenced by a book simply entitled A Collection of Songs. Now, there's no indication as to the author. Rabbie was alleged to have said, and I quote, "That volume was with me everywhere. I pored over it during my work, walking to labour, song by song, verse by verse, carefully noting the true, tender, or sublime from the affection of the Faustian, and I am convinced I owe to this practice most of my critic craft, such as it is." This modesty of Burns does him credit, as we are gathered here this evening to celebrate the greatness of his talent in this craft. I would now like to describe a few types of songs and allow you to toast whichever of them you deem worthy. So, gentlemen, what is a song and who are the songwriters? I consulted various dictionaries and finally settled for the definitions given in the Oxford Illustrated Dictionary, as I'm better at reading the pictures. The definitions given were A, act of singing, vocal music, musical utterances of birds. B, a poem or a lay. C, a metrical composition adapted for singing. D, a metrical composition suggestive of a song, such as Mendelssohn's Song Without Words, written in 1871. E, a fuss or outcry about something. F, something of little value, as in going for a song. Now, A, the act of singing or vocal music. The Scots mouth music is not particularly to my liking, but any who wish to include that in the toast are certainly at liberty to do so. Hedrum hodrum, it's not really for me. B, a poem or a lay. Now, I'm sure that this is the type of song that most of us would consider to be the true meaning of the word song. I don't need to quote too many of Burns's songs to convince you. A Fond Kiss, The Lass of Ballochmyle, Bonnie Wee Thing. These songs have melody, tenderness, and the ability to arouse our emotions. As does Scots Wi Hae, only different emotions. But speeches about the conventional ballad tend to be panegyric and lyrical, as are the songs themselves. So let us now pay tribute to other songwriters and composers, who also provide us with amusement or pleasure, such as the producers of so-called dirty songs. Such well-known classics as The Wild West Show or Lydia Pink have been taken up and made respectable enough to be sung before the general public. Such writers do suppose deserve credit. Burns did exactly the same thing during the last 2 years of his life to many old Scots folk songs, and laudable as this work may be, your mind would boggle if you took it to its logical conclusion and tried to clean up some of the more bawdy songs. If poetry is also by definition song, then are limericks and graffiti also to be included in this toast? Do we honour the cultured lads who adorn the walls of public conveniences with such gems as what do you call two Irishmen in a tandem? Dope peddlers. Or what is the profession of an Irishman seen trimming the toenails of another with a pair of hedge clippers? Brain surgeon. Well, you have certainly shown that you do not consider these offerings as poetry, and I congratulate you, gentlemen, on your good taste. Now let us consider the sincerity of the songwriter. Does he really need to mean what he says? Are his words a sincere expression of his innermost wishes? O Mary, at thy window be, it is the wish, the triste hour, those smiles and glances let me see, that makes the miser's treasures poor. These sentiments are obviously genuine, but what do we say about the men who wrote such songs as, I want to set the world on fire, an arsonist? Or, down among the dead men, let me lie? Obviously a suicidal depressive. Should people like that be allowed to run around free, or is sincerity not really necessary? Is the motivation of songwriters important, and are, say, Oasis and other current rock stars to be excluded from our toast simply because they make a fortune and shatter our eardrums? Burns didn't go to Jamaica because he wrote a few hits, and I believe that recognition of ability and monetary recompense are two very closely related factors. Burns said in his epistle to James Smith, some rhyme a neighbour mair to bash, some rhyme fain thought for needful cash, some rhyme to court the contra clash and raise a din. For me and ain, I never fash, I rhyme for fun. If a man enjoys his work, he is indeed happy. Now let us consider the effect of song. A song can lift a column of marching men. It sustained the life of men cast adrift in freezing waters and in a crisis. I expect that most people at some point or other have whistled to keep up their spirits. There is one instance I would like to quote from a letter written by Robert Falcon Scott. In writing from his final camp in the Antarctic, he wrote to Sir J.M. Barrie, "We are in desperate state, feet frozen, no fuel, and a long way from food. But it would do your heart good to be in our tent to hear our songs and conversations." Postmarked, somewhere near the South Pole, 1912. If I'd been invited to attend that particular song recital, I would have definitely taken cold feet, I can assure you. I would also add that this letter was kept in ice for a long time before being seen by the general public. Percy B. Shelley tells us that our sweetest songs are those that tell of the saddest thoughts. Again, the phrase is parting is such sweet sorrow. Now, gentlemen, I prefer to be happy, but every man to his own interpretation of song. I will now quickly consider the definitions of C through F. C, a metrical composition adaptive for singing, such as chants or madrigals. However, this isn't really to my liking. D, which was a musical setting or composition suggestive of a song, such as Mendelssohn's Song Without Words. Now, as a song is defined as a poem, we could have a poem without words, which would go something like However, that would be rather pointless. E and F, which were a fuss and something of little value. Both of these I discard. So, gentlemen, we have looked at the various interpretations of song, and as I said at the beginning, each is free to favour in the toast whichever facet of song or songwriter he in particular holds dear. George Meredith wrote, "Full lasting is the song, though he, the singer, passes. But we are gathered here this evening, gentlemen, to ensure that the singer, though past, is not forgotten, and to give pride of place to our ain Rabbieburns. Gentlemen, I ask you to charge your glasses and join me in the toast. The toast I propose, the songwriters.